Today, we are doing a deep dive into San Francisco Mayor London Breed's past in order to understand her motivations behind her policies on many of the issues plaguing the city today. Our media partner, the San Francisco Standard, just published an article, London Breed Saved Herself. Can She Save San Francisco? It gives readers one of the most intimate and revealing looks at the mayor's life. So joining us now is Josh Koehn, senior reporter with the SF Standard and the journalist who wrote the article. So great having you with us today.
Thanks for having me, Dion. It's great to be here.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I am just blown away by the tremendous efforts it took, because you spent more than 6 months making more than 50 interviews with people who are close to London. Can you paint a picture of who she is as a person, but then also as a politician, someone to work with?
Yeah, absolutely. London Breed is one of the more fascinating people to come out of politics in the Bay Area in, generations. She rose out of a very tough public housing project called Plaza East over in the Western Addition. And Plaza East, actually, the nickname was called the OC. Not like Orange County, but out of control, because it was out of control with gangs, murders, drug dealing, and a lot of extreme poverty. London Breed grew up with her grandmother raising her siblings, aunts, all crammed into a small apartment, and they were on food stamps. She essentially had almost nothing to begin with, and somehow, through perseverance, grit, determination, and a community that did actually embrace her and really protected her, because the one thing about these tight-knit communities in which not a lot of people have a lot of things, when they see potential in someone, they make sure that they can help that person succeed. And so there's a lot of pride, a lot of love in the community. And she became just this really unique talent that people in local politics wanted to gravitate towards. And she was a worker. She was great at connecting with people, and she also is intense. If she feels like you are not about the business, she will give you the business. She will come after you real quick. And so she's definitely one of the more engaging people to be in San Francisco politics in a long time. And at the same time, she also has some issues where some of her strongest traits can cut both ways, and also kind of hurt her because politics is all about relationships and compromise, and Mayor Breed has really butted heads with a lot of people in this time that she's been mayor.
It's interesting. She is very complex from what I gathered from your article, and also what we have gathered from having her on our show and having interactions with her. She can be you paint her as almost aggressive in her messaging, but yet at the same time, she has this plaque that's on her desk that says, "What would Beyonce do?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, Beyonce is super talented, obviously, as well, and also does things her own way. And London Breed has never been afraid to kind of set her own path. In 2 interviews we had over the course of the 6 months of reporting, I sat down with her in the mayor's office, and there was just this one quote that we actually used near the end of the story, where she says, "Yeah, I'm a fighter and I'm a beast when it comes to getting what I want." And so she is not afraid to really go toe-to-toe with her political opponents and call them out for their arguments. The issue, though, that a lot of people have raised is whether or not it's enough to just be tough talk. She blames her lefty political opponents on the Board of Supervisors. She talks about the bureaucracy and red tape that obviously is a real issue at City Hall because of generations of ordinances passed that essentially make it this weird labyrinth to try to navigate how to build housing, how to deal with homelessness, the drug crisis. And so these are real complaints, but at a certain point, you do have to rise above that and work with people. And so what this story, I hope, accomplishes is really try and lay out for people the challenges that she personally had to overcome: housing instability, economic instability, a sister who died from a drug overdose, a brother who went to prison for a deadly robbery, an aunt who had mental health issues. These things all impacted her, but now she has to find a way to solve those, not just for herself, but all of San Francisco. And so it's a really complicated question, which is probably why the story is so darn long.
It does make for good reading if anyone is looking for a long nighttime read. I do want to talk about her personality and how that has played out with her policies. We'll get to that in maybe the next segment. But before that, she is tremendously private, but you've been able to unearth some aspects of her life that directly parlay into some of her policies that she makes today. Can you give us some examples of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the mayor is intensely private about her family because she does not want to embarrass them. She does not want to put all of their business out on the streets. In the reporting, I did learn from multiple people that she has actually never met her father and does not know who that is. She recently took a DNA test and revealed to a group on a sister city trip to Israel that she is part Jewish, which was a big revelation in her life. And I think these are the kind of things that we all want to know more about the people who represent us. And this doesn't necessarily explain some of her policy decisions, but it does explain just the way she surrounds herself with people that she trusts fiercely. And if she does not trust you, then you are definitely on the outside looking in. And so when it comes to issues like crime, she has a pretty nuanced view on crime because she was surrounded by drug dealing, murders. She witnessed a person's corpse when she was 12 years old, a shooting in her neighborhood. And so she also knows that police treated her aunt really kindly when they were called out. Her aunt had a nickname for one of the cops, called him Beefcakes.
I saw that.
And so, which was a really cute story. You know, she was saying at her aunt's funeral, the police officer came and he's like, "Some of you might know me by the name Beefcakes." And she was like, "Oh my God, Beefcakes." But really, she wants to be tough on crime while also balancing calls for reform. When it comes to drug use, she's now taking a very hard line on people using drugs in the streets and refusing to go into treatment. This basically is going to put her at odds with people who call for harm reduction strategies over abstinence-based strategies. And then when it comes to issues of the local economy, which is really huge. I mean, we had a $780 million deficit projected for the next 2 years, and we're still negotiating that. And her efforts to actually deal with that are very much in question. Is it a real strategy, or are we just throwing things against the wall?
Let's talk now about her future, because there are so many issues plaguing San Francisco right now, issues that we've reported on, both of us.
Absolutely.
You know, what is it going to take for her to secure re-election come next year?
Yeah, right now, as we say, we've got a year and a half until the 2024 election, and 3/4 of San Franciscans say that the city is headed down the wrong track. More than half of voters are disapproving of her performance as mayor. And while she did it, by and large, most people say she did an excellent job of handling COVID and the pandemic. Our memories as people paying attention to local politics are very short term. And so we're seeing what's in front of us, and we're seeing street conditions that are still a mess. We're seeing open air drug markets that are going unchecked. We're seeing people suffering on the streets and having mental health breakdowns. And we're also just experiencing a loss of culture and commerce. And so these things are building towards this kind of groundswell of opinion that something is rotten in San Francisco. And so what she, as mayor, needs to do is she has to, one, really make progress on the issues of drugs and crime and a perception that people feel unsafe, which is obviously something you've covered a lot in your reporting. And to do that, she needs to be on the same page with police and District Attorney Brooke Jenkins, who was brought in by an appointment of Mayor Breed after the recall of Chesa Boudin. And so I think people need to see real progress on that front. Maybe even bigger, though, is the local economy, the storefronts that are leaving the downtown area.
Yes, let's talk about that, because it would be remiss of me not to mention this. Good Morning America went live for their show not too long ago and said that it was too dangerous to go live so early in the morning. The mayor denounced this, saying that it did not give a good perception of the city, that it was actually hampering our economic rebound. Is that the right message, in your opinion? I mean, is the public buying that?
Yeah, I would think that the public's probably on Good Morning America's side a lot of the time when it comes to a statement like that. I think this is a big challenge for Mayor Breed, because not only does she have to show real improvement, but she also has to manage her messaging. And when she goes after the media, that is rarely a good strategy that plays out well for elected officials. It also shows that there isn't really necessarily enough nuance, and if she wants to highlight the positives, it's probably not a good idea to attack the media when they say these things. And as someone who is a former editor of San Francisco Chronicle, I used to walk those streets at 5:30 to 6 a.m. every day, and I can tell you, if I was a producer, I might have some questions too. So instead of attacking the messenger on something like that, I think there is going to have to be a shift in how she balances being tough and really being combative when she feels like things are unfair, and other times saying, you know what, this is criticism we're going to take, and we're going to do our best to improve it. And I think right now there has been a bit of a defensiveness on Mayor Breed's part, especially in the last few weeks. We saw an open-air outdoor hearing in which, at United Nations Plaza, in which she was called to explain her handling of the drug crisis in the downtown area. Mayor Breed and her administration did make a pretty huge error when they had a Tenderloin Linkage Center for drug services and connecting clients with help. It ended up just becoming a safe consumption site, which is not actually legal in a lot of ways. And so a lot of people blamed her administration for making the drug crisis worse. So being combative, being someone who just wants to, have that fight, it's not necessarily an effective communication strategy, especially with a year and a half until next election.
And I do want to wrap things up real quickly by asking you two more questions. How has her relationship with the Board of Supervisors been in recent months, and how has that played out in making things effective?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're going to be going on vacation together anytime soon. I think actually things are going to get worse before they get better. Mayor Breed's called them out for being too lefty because she is a bit more moderate and centrist in her politics. She's also called them out for being obstructionists. There's likely going to be a ballot measure put forward by someone to make her stronger as a mayor. And San Francisco already has a very strong mayor system, but she feels she needs more powers to get the job done. So actually, that is going to be a big clash if that comes to pass next year.
I'm sure we will have you on again as we inch closer to that election.
Great. Thank you.
Josh Koehn, many thanks to you.
Thanks, Dion.